Ladies and gentlemen, today I want to talk about one of the most profound aspects of our spiritual journey: faith in God's plan, and how embracing His perfect timing can transform our lives in ways we might never have imagined. Every moment, often we find ourselves caught up in the rush of life, looking for immediate answers, seeking quick solutions, and expecting things to unfold on our schedule. Yet, when we look at the bigger picture, we come to understand that our lives are not bound by time alone. There's a deeper plan, a greater purpose, and a divine timing that governs everything. Here are 5 key points to help us better understand how we can grow in faith and trust in God's plan for us. When we talk about surrendering control, we are addressing one of the most difficult aspects of faith. As human beings, we are wired to want to control our circumstances, our outcomes, and even the people around us. We feel a sense of security when we have a plan, when we know what to expect, and when we can dictate the pace of our lives. This desire for control often comes from a place of fear or insecurity, the fear of the unknown, the fear of failure, or the fear of not having things turn out the way we hope. We believe that if we can manage every detail, we can ensure a desired result. However, faith teaches us that true peace doesn't come from having everything under our control. In fact, it often comes when we relinquish control and trust that there is a higher purpose at play. When we surrender control, we are acknowledging that we are not in charge of everything and that there is a wisdom beyond our understanding. We come to realize that we are not alone in this journey, and we don't have to carry the burden of trying to make everything happen on our own. Surrendering control means trusting in God's timing, even when it doesn't align with our own plans. It requires us to let go of the anxiety that comes from trying to force outcomes and instead embrace the unknown with faith. Often, when we try to control everything, we end up creating unnecessary resistance, not only within ourselves, but in our relationship with God. This resistance can prevent us from seeing the bigger picture or recognizing the lessons we are meant to learn. Letting go of control also means releasing the need to have all the answers. We don't need to know why certain things happen the way they do, or why some doors seem to close before we are ready. Surrendering control gives us the freedom to simply be, to accept the present moment, and to trust that God is working things out behind the scenes in ways we can't yet comprehend. Moreover, surrendering control is not a passive act, it's an active decision to choose trust over fear. It's acknowledging that we are part of a larger story and that every moment, whether good or bad, is an essential part of our growth. When we choose to trust in God's plan instead of our own, we create space for His peace to enter our hearts, helping us to see life not as something we must constantly manage, but as a journey to be experienced. In practical terms, surrendering control might mean letting go of the need to plan every detail of your future and instead allowing yourself to be open to new opportunities, even if they come in unexpected forms. It might mean trusting that the difficult seasons of life are preparing you for something greater, even if you can't see the path forward yet. Remember, we have control. We get to control the direction of our lives and the pace at which we live and move in the direction of our desires. And ultimately, surrendering control allows you to experience a deeper level of peace, knowing that you don't have to carry the weight of your life on your own shoulders. When you surrender to God's guidance, you align yourself with a higher purpose, one that unfolds in ways that are beyond your imagination. Trusting the unseen is one of the most profound aspects of faith, as it requires us to surrender our need for certainty and control. In a world that demands proof and tangible results, it's not always easy to trust in what we cannot see or fully comprehend. The unseen encompasses the aspects of life that lie beyond our immediate understanding, whether it's the reasons behind a trial, the unseen hand of God guiding us, or the unseen work of transformation happening within us. It's in these moments that true faith is forged. To trust the unseen is to recognize that God's ways are far beyond our own understanding. The Bible says, "For my thoughts are not your thoughts, neither are your ways my ways," Isaiah 55:8. God in His infinite wisdom sees the beginning from the end, while we often only see the present moment. We may look at our current circumstances and wonder why things aren't working out the way we had hoped. However, trusting in the unseen is about knowing that even when we cannot understand what's happening or why, God is still at work. He has a plan that is unfolding in ways we cannot yet grasp. Faith in the unseen also means trusting that God's purpose is still active in our lives, even during the periods of silence or waiting. During times of struggle or doubt, we might feel distant from God or wonder if He is paying attention to our needs. But in reality, the unseen work of God is always present. He may be teaching us patience, building our endurance, or preparing us for what's to come. We might not see the end of the story, but God does, and He's already there, guiding us along the path. Trusting the unseen also requires us to surrender the need for immediate answers. It's about learning to walk with confidence in the knowledge that God is at work, even in the most unclear or uncertain moments. Our ability to trust that God is doing something good behind the scenes, even when we cannot see it, is the foundation of a deeper, more enduring faith. It's a reminder that faith isn't just about what we can grasp with our hands or our eyes, but about trusting in the eternal truth that God's plan is always in motion, even if it's invisible to us at the moment. Live with purpose and patience. Living with purpose and patience is a powerful combination that allows us to navigate life with greater clarity and peace. In a world that glorifies busyness and fast-pacing achievement, living with purpose helps us avoid the pitfalls of distraction, confusion, or exhaustion. Purpose gives our lives meaning, guiding our decisions, actions, and intentions. Living with purpose gives our lives meaning, guiding our decisions, actions, and intentions. It's the compass that points us in the direction God wants us to go and provides the motivation to keep moving forward, even in times of hardship. Having a sense of purpose connects us to a higher calling and allows us to live intentionally. It's not about just going through the motions or seeking personal gain. It's about aligning our lives with God's plan for us. When we understand the bigger picture of our lives, we begin to see our daily actions as part of a larger mission. Purpose helps us live out our faith actively, knowing that every step we take is leading us toward the fulfillment of God's calling in our lives. It's a reminder that our lives have meaning beyond our own personal desires or goals. However, living with purpose is not always enough if we don't also cultivate patience. Patience is the ability to endure difficulties, delays, and challenges with grace and trust. In our fast-pacing world, it's easy to become frustrated when things don't unfold according to our own timelines. We may feel disheartened when progress is slow or when our dreams seem far off. But living with patience means trusting that God is working in His perfect timing. Patience allows us to remain steadfast even when things seem uncertain or delayed, knowing that God's plan is unfolding at the right pace. Patience, when paired with purpose, teaches us to value the journey over the destination. It allows us to accept that growth often comes in unexpected forms and over long periods of time. When we are patient, we are not passive. Rather, we are actively engaged in the process of becoming who God has called us to be. It helps us embrace the present moment, knowing that God is working in us, even when we can't see the results yet. In the practice of purpose and patience, we also learn to navigate seasons of waiting without becoming discouraged. It's in those waiting seasons that God often refines us the most, building our character, deepening our faith, and preparing us for what's ahead. We begin to see that every waiting period is not wasted time, but part of God's perfect process to shape us into the people we are meant to be. Surrender control. Embracing the journey is perhaps one of the most powerful aspects of living a life of faith. In a world that places immense value on achievements, milestones, and the end result, it's easy to overlook the value of the process itself. But faith teaches us that the journey is just as important, if not more so, than the destination. Each step we take is part of a divine process, carefully orchestrated to shape us into the person we are meant to become. When we truly embrace the journey, we begin to understand that life isn't merely about reaching the end goal, but about the lessons, experiences, and growth that occur along the way. Every step, no matter how small or seemingly insignificant, holds profound value in the grand scheme of God's plan for us. It's in the day-to-day moments, the trials and triumphs, the ordinary and extraordinary, that God refines us, builds our character, and teaches us to lean on Him in ways that we would never learn if we were solely focused on the end result. The journey is where we cultivate patience, resilience, and trust. We learn to navigate life's uncertainties, disappointments, and delays, and in doing so, we develop the strength to face whatever comes our way. It's easy to embrace success, but it's in the moments of struggle that we often experience the deepest growth. God uses these challenging moments to teach us valuable life lessons, lessons that cannot be learned from a place of comfort or certainty. Moreover, embracing the journey involves embracing the unknown. We can't always predict where the path will lead, and sometimes it's tempting to take shortcuts or rush through certain phases of life. But when we learn to trust in the process, we realize that every twist and turn has a purpose. The unknown becomes less intimidating, and we begin to see each detour as an opportunity for something new, something better, even if we don't fully understand it in the moment. By embracing the journey, we also learn to be present. We stop rushing toward the future, constantly looking ahead to the next phase of life, and instead we focus on fully experiencing the here and now. We savor the quiet moments, the conversations with loved ones, the growth we experience through challenges, and the small victories along the way. In this way, embracing the journey helps us become more grounded in the present and more grateful for what we have. Trust the unseen. Trusting the unseen is at the core of living by faith. There will be times in our lives when we don't have all the answers, when we don't fully understand why things are happening the way they are, or when we feel as though we're walking through life blindfolded. In these moments, it's easy to become overwhelmed by doubt and uncertainty. But faith calls us to trust in what we cannot see, to rely on a higher power that knows the bigger picture, even when we only see a small part of it. Trusting the unseen requires us to acknowledge that our understanding of life is limited, while God's wisdom is infinite. There are moments when we might question why things aren't going the way we hoped or why certain doors are closing, but we must remember that God's plan for us is far greater than anything we could imagine. Just because we don't see the full picture right now doesn't mean it's not unfolding in perfect alignment with God's will for our lives. When we trust the unseen, we step out of our own limited perspective and lean into the vastness of God's eternal vision. This trust brings peace in the midst of uncertainty. Instead of worrying or second-guessing ourselves, we can rest in the knowledge that God is working behind the scenes, orchestrating everything for our highest good. The things that seem unclear or confusing in the moment often become clear in hindsight, when we can look back and see how each experience was a piece of a larger divinely designed puzzle. And so, trusting the unseen also means trusting in God's promises even when our circumstances don't align with what we expect. Faith is not based on what we can see or feel right now. It's based on the trust that God is faithful to fulfill His promises, regardless of the external conditions. This trust strengthens our relationship with God because it teaches us to rely not on what we can control or understand, but on His unshakable character and His perfect plan for our lives. Trusting the unseen can be especially difficult when we face periods of hardship, when life feels out of control, when we are dealing with loss, suffering, or confusion. It's hard to understand why things are happening the way they are. But in those moments, trusting the unseen requires us to acknowledge that God is present, even when we cannot perceive Him. He is working in ways we might not see, shaping us, refining us, and preparing us for something greater. And though we may not understand in the moment, we trust that He is faithful to complete the good work He has started in us. Then He releases the pressure, and the burden begins to lift from our shoulders. Live with purpose and patience. Living with purpose and patience is a powerful combination that anchors us through the ups and downs of life. When we live with purpose, we are intentional about our actions, our choices, and the way we live each day. Purpose gives us direction and clarity. It helps us align our hearts with God's will and ensures that we are walking in the path He has designed for us. Without purpose, life can feel aimless, and we may find ourselves easily swayed by distractions or discouraged by setbacks. But with purpose, we stay focused on what matters most and are motivated by a deep sense of meaning that transcends temporary circumstances. Patience, on the other hand, is the willingness to wait for God's timing without giving in to frustration or impatience. It is a fruit of the Spirit that allows us to endure the challenges of life with grace and trust. In a world that values speed and instant gratification, patience is often counterintuitive. But patience is essential in the process of spiritual growth. It teaches us to trust that everything unfolds at the right time, and that we don't need to rush through life or force outcomes. When we live with purpose and patience, we create space for God to work in our lives. Purpose helps us focus on our goals and keeps us aligned with His will, while patience allows us to accept that those goals may take time to be realized. It teaches us to trust that the process itself is just as important as the destination. Through patience, we learn to value the lessons and the growth that come from waiting, rather than viewing it as wasted time. I desire to think about this. Purpose and patience together lead to a life of fulfillment and peace. Purpose directs our actions, while patience allows us to trust in God's perfect timing. By living with both, we are not discouraged by delays, nor do we become frustrated when things don't unfold as quickly as we'd like. Instead, we embrace the journey, knowing that God is working in us and through us, and that every step, no matter how slow or difficult it may seem, is part of His greater plan. Together, purpose and patience help us live a life that is steady, focused, and rooted in trust, knowing that with God, all things will unfold according to His perfect will and timing. This common joy designed for this common purpose was invested with Disinvestor. Trusting in divine timing can be one of the most challenging aspects of faith, particularly in a world that values instant gratification. We live in a culture that teaches us to expect quick results and immediate answers. Whether it's the rapid pace of technology, social media, or even the fast-moving job market, we are constantly encouraged to pursue what we want right now, to demand answers without delay, and to push for results without considering the timing. But faith calls us to a different rhythm. A rhythm that moves at the pace of God's divine plan, not our own. Divine timing is often misunderstood as delay, and when things don't happen as we expect, it's easy to become frustrated or disillusioned. Yet if we trust that God's timing is perfect, we come to see that delays are not setbacks, but opportunities for growth. The reality is that God's timing is always aligned with what is best for us, even if it doesn't look the way we want it to. And we might find ourselves in seasons of waiting, uncertain of when or how things will unfold. But in those moments, we are being prepared, shaped, and refined in ways we might not fully comprehend at the time. And that's when we trust in divine timing, we understand that waiting is not wasted time. It's a crucial part of the process. Just as an artist patiently refines their craft over time, God is at work within us, refining our character, deepening our faith, and preparing us for the next chapter of our lives. If everything were to happen according to our timeline, we might miss the lessons and opportunities that are embedded within the waiting period. The challenges, the setbacks, and the seasons of uncertainty are not signs that something has gone wrong. They are signs that something greater is being prepared. Divine timing teaches us that what we need may not always be available when we want it, but it will come at precisely the right moment. It's a reminder that God's understanding of time is infinite, and He sees the bigger picture of our lives. While we may feel impatient or confused in the moment, divine timing assures us that God knows what is best for us and will provide it when we are truly ready to receive it. We have to trust that His wisdom exceeds our understanding and that His timing always works out for our highest good, even when it feels difficult to accept. We have to trust that His wisdom exceeds our understanding. Embrace the journey. Embracing the journey means recognizing that life is not simply about reaching a destination, but about learning and growing along the way. It's easy to get caught up in the desire for quick outcomes, the pressure of achieving goals, and the notion that success is the end of the story. But when we embrace the journey, we shift our focus from the destination to the process of becoming. The journey is where we learn the most about ourselves, about God, and about life. Each step, whether it's a triumph or a setback, contributes to our growth and shapes us into the people we are meant to become. Without the journey, there is no transformation. Without the journey, there are no lessons. Without the journey, we miss the moments that make life truly meaningful. Embracing the journey involves accepting that there will be challenges and obstacles along the way. There will be moments of doubt, disappointment, and struggle. But these are not signs that we are off course. Rather, they are the very things that build our resilience, deepen our character, and strengthen our faith. The most profound moments of growth often come from the toughest times. When we allow ourselves to experience the full spectrum of life's ups and downs, we open ourselves up to the depth of God's presence and His transformative power. In the world that often prizes results over process, embracing the journey also means learning to be present. It's easy to live in the future, always looking ahead to the next goal or milestone, or to live in the past, reflecting on what we have or haven't achieved. But when we embrace the journey, we cultivate the ability to live in the present moment. We learn to appreciate the small, everyday experiences that shape our lives, the conversations, the quiet moments of reflection, the relationships we build. These are all part of the journey, and they all hold value. As we embrace the journey, we also learn to appreciate that it is uniquely ours. No two journeys are the same, and comparing ourselves to others can only detract from the richness of our own path. Trust that your journey is unfolding as it should. Every challenge you face, every moment of uncertainty, every joy and every sorrow is part of the tapestry God is weaving in your life. Embrace it all with faith, for the journey itself is where the deepest transformation occurs. The beauty of the journey is that it doesn't always follow a straight line. It's often winding with unexpected turns and surprises. And that is where the true beauty lies, in the unfolding, in the becoming, and in the trust that we are exactly where we need to be. Embrace the journey, knowing that with every step you take, you are growing closer to the person you are meant to be, and to the fulfillment of God's perfect plan for your life. Surrendering control is one of the most profound acts of trust we can demonstrate in our relationship with God. As humans, we tend to find comfort in being in control of our circumstances. We feel more secure when we believe we are the ones driving the narrative of our lives. But God calls us to a life of surrender, letting go of our need to control everything and trusting Him with the outcomes. Surrendering control means acknowledging that we are not in charge of every aspect of our lives. It requires us to relinquish our grip on things that are outside of our ability to manage or understand. This is not to say that we should be passive or neglect our responsibilities, but rather we are invited to trust that God is sovereign over all things, and that He works everything for our good. The more we try to control situations, the more we may find ourselves frustrated, anxious, or feeling like we're fighting against the current. True peace comes when we recognize that we do not have to carry the weight of our lives alone. The act of surrender isn't about resignation, it's about trust. When we surrender control, we are actively placing our lives in God's hands, believing that He will guide us, protect us, and lead us where we need to go. This surrender doesn't always come easily, as we often want to control outcomes or have everything planned out. But surrender allows God to step in and work in ways that go beyond our understanding. It means accepting that our plans might not align with God's plans, and that His timing and methods are always perfect. Because life is not about making plans. In practice, surrendering control can feel like stepping into the unknown, trusting that God will show us the way. It requires us to let go of our fears, doubts, and insecurities and trust that He will provide for our needs. When we let go of our need to control, we open ourselves up to the freedom that comes with following God's lead. It's a daily decision to release our worries, knowing that God is fully in control of our lives. Embrace God's perfect timing. Embracing God's perfect timing is about understanding that everything in life happens according to His divine will and plan. In our fast-pacing world, we are conditioned to want things immediately, instant success, instant results, and instant gratification. Yet faith calls us to live with a deeper understanding that God's timing is always right, even if it doesn't align with our own expectations. When we embrace God's perfect timing, we learn to wait with a heart full of trust. We let go of the need to rush things and instead allow God to work in us at His pace. While we may be eager to see the outcomes of our hard work or prayers, we trust that the process itself is part of God's perfect plan. Each season of life, whether it's a season of waiting, a season of preparation, or a season of growth, is orchestrated by God to bring us closer to our purpose. God's perfect timing isn't just about events unfolding in our lives, it's about us becoming the right person at the right time. Sometimes we may think we are ready for something, a new opportunity, a relationship, a change in career. But God knows when we are truly prepared. Embracing God's timing means trusting that He will bring things into our lives when we are spiritually, emotionally, and mentally ready. If you live in the future, in the past, or the present, God knows the temple is for you because He controls it. It means trusting that God is never early or late. He is always right on time. Because as we embrace God's perfect timing, we also learn to trust that His timing is tied to His love for us. He desires what is best for us, and His plan for our lives is always aligned with our highest good. Even if we can't see it in the moment, we can trust that God is working in ways that will lead to blessings and growth, far beyond our limited vision. By embracing God's perfect timing, we allow ourselves to release the burden of trying to control our own schedule, and instead align ourselves with the divine rhythm of His plan. Trusting in this timing deepens our faith, knowing that everything in life is unfolding with purpose, and in the end, everything will work together for our good. Surrender control. Surrendering control is an act of profound faith and trust. One of the most challenging yet transformative aspects of our spiritual journey. The human instinct is often to take charge of our lives, to direct every aspect, and to ensure things unfold exactly how we envision them. This desire for control often stems from a fear of the unknown, or a belief that we alone are responsible for our futures. Yet God calls us to surrender that control, to place our trust in His wisdom and guidance, even when we don't fully understand the path before us. When we surrender control, we acknowledge that there is a higher power at work in our lives, and that we are not the ultimate architects of our destiny. Surrendering doesn't mean being passive or neglecting our responsibilities. Rather, it's about relinquishing the need to manipulate outcomes and acknowledging that God's plan is infinitely wiser than our own. Witness and love our neighbor as we surrender to the will and command to God's plan. We can rest in the truth that He sees the bigger picture, understands the intricacies of every situation, and is working all things together for our good, even when circumstances don't make sense. True surrender comes when we let go of our anxieties, our tight grip on plans, and the fear that we are not enough to navigate life's uncertainties. It requires us to acknowledge that we cannot control every event, person, or outcome, and that trying to do so only leads to frustration, exhaustion, and ultimately disappointment. Instead, we are invited to trust God's timing and methods, even when they don't match our expectations. It is only when we surrender control that we open ourselves up to God's transformative work. By releasing our grip on our own agenda, we allow Him to guide us in ways we might not have imagined. Surrendering control also involves letting go of the need to fix everything. As we navigate life's trials, we may feel an overwhelming urge to solve every problem ourselves, but surrendering allows us to invite God into the process. We begin to realize that our strength does not come from our ability to control circumstances, but from our ability to trust in the One who controls all things. It is quite applicable. Surrender is about yielding to God's will, trusting that He is more capable than we are, and that His plan for us will ultimately lead to peace and fulfillment. Trust in divine timing. Trusting in divine timing requires a deep and abiding faith that God's plan is unfolding exactly as it should, even if we can't see the end result. In our fast-pacing society where instant results are often the expectation, divine timing can feel frustratingly slow or elusive. We may find ourselves praying for something and eagerly waiting for an answer, only to feel as though God is silent or distant. But trusting in divine timing is about accepting that God's timeline is perfect, and His delays are not denials. God's timing is always right, even when it doesn't match our own sense of urgency. Just because we may feel ready for something or wish that a door would open doesn't mean it's the right time for us. Divine timing is a recognition that God is not bound by the limitations of our human perception of time. He sees the bigger picture and understands the precise moment when we are truly ready to receive His blessings, whether it's a new opportunity, relationship, or breakthrough. Sometimes, The delays we experience are part of God's preparation process, preparing us spiritually, emotionally, or mentally for what's ahead. When we trust in divine timing, we trust that everything happens when it's meant to, and that God is never early or late. He is always right on time. Trusting in divine timing requires patience and resilience in the face of waiting. It means accepting that waiting is not wasted time, but rather an essential part of God's perfect plan. During these waiting periods, we are being refined, shaped, and readied for what lies ahead. In the waiting, we learn to grow in our faith, deepen our reliance on God, and become more attuned to His voice. Divine timing also teaches us to trust that God is working behind the scenes, even when we cannot see the immediate results of our prayers. It requires us to release the need for control and instead trust that God is orchestrating every detail of our lives with love and wisdom. Even in moments of uncertainty, trusting in divine timing brings peace, knowing that God is in control, and His timing will bring about the best possible outcome. Embrace the journey. Embracing the journey means recognizing that life is not just a series of destinations, but a process of becoming. It's easy to focus solely on the end goals, to fixate on the outcome we desire, or to measure success by achievements. However, embracing the journey requires a shift in perspective, where we begin to value the experiences, lessons, and growth that come from each step along the way, no matter how challenging or uncertain they may seem. Sometimes we may choose the journey over completing the journey before we realize that in fact life is uncertain. Each stage of our life, every detour, every setback, and every triumph holds value and purpose. We often find ourselves wishing for the destination, for the end of a trial, or for the moment when everything falls into place. But the truth is, it is the journey that shapes us. It's through the challenges, the uncertainty, and the perseverance that we are refined and prepared for the future God has in store. Embracing the journey means learning to find joy in the present moment, to be fully engaged in each season of life, and to recognize that everything we experience is part of a greater plan.